Hey guys, what's up? Happy Sunday. Welcome to Technical with Sharlit Elise. If you're new here, well, I welcome you. If you're not new here, it's glad to have you back. Honestly. So this show, if you don't know, we talk a little bit about tech, and the things that we're talking about today is boom. So last week in last week's show, episode 14, we were talking about the Pixel 8, right? The Pixel 8 released, and we're stumbling upon week 2. So week 2 of the Pixel 8, I got this new phone finally. I have a long overdue phone. This is my newest phone, and it is replacing a 5-year phone, 6-year-old phone ish, 6, I think. Anyways, point is, so this phone has some cool photo editing tools. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about that, and we're also talking about 23andMe. I don't know if you guys know a little bit about it, but if you don't know and you're not familiar, I'll give you the quick rundown when we get into that. But Pixel 8, my newest beautiful phone. And I didn't get the Pro because for 2 reasons. The Pro is at least $300 more, and it's larger. I like a small phone. So this is small, and I can have a case. I don't have my iPhone with me, but I usually don't carry cases, but this phone I am planning to have for 7 years. I've been using a wireless charger because I don't want to damage the USB-C port. I've only used the USB-C port twice in a whole week of use. Ron says, does the battery last for a day? The battery actually lasts for more than a day, and just barely. I do baby this phone, but I have been using it. I was planning on just keeping my old phone just so I could use it for like the YouTubes and stuff, and just only use this when it's necessary, when I actually leave the home. But, like if you go buy it, you're going to use it, right? At some point, you got to use the stuff. Yeah, Google will be supporting this phone for 7 years. Software-wise, that's the key. Does the hardware last that long? Who knows? I don't drop my phone. Well, actually, I have dropped my phone, but I'm not a person that breaks their phone. It takes like 3 years before I drop my phone. And, I'm like holding it like loosely. When I go shows, I hold it like this, to record. I am a risk taker. Does it come with a charger? It doesn't really come with a charger. It does come with a USB-C cable, to which at this point I have many, many, many cables. Anyways, so yeah, today's show is going to be talking about the AI tools on the Pixel 8. And Ron says, does it come with a Type-C to 3.5 millimeter? No. You definitely, if we don't get a charger, you're not going to get that. No way. So the Pixel 8 comes with like a new functionality to integrate AI, right? And the AI to modify and edit photos. And we talked about this this ability in the previous show, and I've been talking about on social media, Threads in particular. And it has the ability to remove sunsets, add sunsets, change faces. And that's one of the things I really wanted to focus today on. Because this past week, I've been experimenting with the face morphing technology of the Pixel 8. The feature is called Best Take, right? So at first, my initial impression, I thought, and I'm going to make a correction to a previous podcast that I did. At first, I thought that Best Take was generating a face via a tap. No, actually, Best Take is not that egregious with AI generation, but they still use it. So Best Take is where you take a series of photos, preferably with the same settings, such as the same lighting, the same background, the same conditions, right? And the closer your facial angle is, the more accurate it is. And after analyzing all this data, you can choose and select the face that you want for that picture. Ram is asking, are there free earbuds in with the Pixel 8? Definitely no. Definitely no. Did I say that? Did I mention that? No. We were talking about the 3.5 millimeter. Yeah, there are no free earbuds. Actually, there are free earbuds with a promotional, but it doesn't come packaged in. So, yeah. Anyways, so Best Take. Why would anyone use Best Take? Why would anyone use this feature? Well, if you have like a family photo, or if you have a photo, particularly with your kids, right? And they're not smiling, and you want them to smile for the family photos, or they're blinking, or something is just not right with their face. They're not ugly. They're not. You will always love your kids and they will always be beautiful, but they're not that ugly. But you do want to get the best look, right? So you take 10 pictures and you get like one picture that looks beautiful. They actually look like they're enjoying themselves. They're not thinking about playing Roblox or Fortnite or something, or in my case, Quake Champions. That's my new vibe. And they're actually interested in taking a photo. But after several attempts, you can't get everyone's face to synchronize, right? So Best Take allows you to edit each person's face, and taking the best image or your preferred image and injecting it into one photo. So it's like a photo merge, except specifically for faces. Imagine babies smiling for the photograph. Yeah, that would actually be pretty creepy. So you would take a picture and you make the baby smile, and then it starts crying. Well, if the baby starts crying, you could just change the face. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I took it upon myself, right? I took it upon myself to experiment, and I did 3 experiments with the Best Take feature. And the first one is I took a bunch of photos. I took like 5-6 photos, and I tried to showcase how the feature works. And we'll just talk about that initially. So here is Best Take. So this is me trying my experiment. Ram says, I've heard people try and edit photos like they do on the presentation and failing. Yeah. It takes a little skill. It takes a little practice. So I was playing around with this photo. This photo. I have several photos. This is the wacky, crazy one. Yeah, me on Monday morning, yes. So I just took this picture, and this is going to be the photo that I will impose on this one, right? So this was my first picture, right? When I smile, I just have to say, when I smile, like, I don't look good. maybe I don't know how to smile. How many teeth should I be showing? Right. I, so this is kind of my smile. And people are like, oh, you're not enjoying yourself. Nah, this is me just not trying to look super ugly. Yeah. No, this is my smile. This nose. I love that. So, yeah, anyway, so this is the base photo that I will use. And I will take this face and put it with this face. So if you look at the images, you'll notice that there is a difference between the two, right? Like the head angle changes. Obviously, the facial expression changes. The energy changes. Both photos seem to have some heavy filters. I did use one filter, which is just like smoothing of the skin, which is pretty strong. So the DSLR that I'm using has all my all the artifacts on my face, which could be addressed, but I don't really want to expose my face to too much makeup. So technically I can look like this if I put foundation on. And then when I put foundation on, I gotta do like all this extra stuff, and I don't like it. So I don't want to damage my face further. So who's the one on the right though? It does look a little fake, yes. But the original image is very similar. It's just a little less smoothed. This is the original image. Anyways, point being, right? So you could clearly see, right? Like certain angle, it's me. It's just different skin here, like because the lighting conditions are different, and all. All right. Anyway, the point is, I took several photos, and so I began processing the photo. So this is me on my phone. This is a screen cap of what I am doing on my phone. And it is looking for different photos on my phone that matches this expression or these conditions. So after it has finished searching, right? Because remember, they're actually using the cloud to do some of this processing. So these are the results, right? So I took 6 photos. And the first photo is the original. And this is what appears at the bottom of the screen after processing. It shows all the different expressions. And at first, I stayed with like a standard look. And then I started, I realized I'm like just making the same face, right? Can you change the facial expression on that thing on my t-shirt? You talking about the not sushi, the rice, is it called onigiri? I think the rice wrap thing. It's so cute. We'll talk about that. But short answer, no. Yeah, so it looked at all the other photos, and I started making like different faces just so I could like start testing the AI, right? And these are the results after I merged the two faces. The first one is Rabies Elise. It's me Monday morning after partying Sunday night. Whether partying at a rave or partying in a multiplayer game, that is the original photo. Kinda Smile Elise is the first photo I took when I woke up. I wore makeup to sleep actually that night. I left eyeliner on. I started doing it. It's not good. Anyways, and lastly, it's the final merge, right? So you could see the head angle is the same as the second picture, but the face or the mouth in particular is like a merger or it's basically copy and pasted onto the right. The eyes is a merge between the first set of eyes to the second. The second's like a little calmer, and the first one is a little unhinged. But yeah, this is the merge. The big telling point is the amount of blur applied to the face. It's quite striking, and you can tell at a glance that there is like some editing involved, right? So first impressions of best take, a little worrisome, right? That is, while it seems good if you put on Instagram and maybe like you zoom out and don't zoom in too much, when you do selfies and zoomed in pictures, you're going to notice there is something different. Also, I look 8. What do you mean, 8 years old? Life, man. Life has got me. Has got me. The DSLR tells the whole truth of how life got me. So that was the first experiment. I tried multiple angles. I tried like turning my face this way and this way to see if the AI could understand that I want to, do they scan my face? Do they read my face and almost create like a 3D image? Because there is software that can map out 3 dimensions relatively accurately. Photoshop, for instance. And when the face is angled off, it doesn't really work, right? It would return an error. I put the error on Instagram. You could check that out of the face. But it basically says this face is not clear, is not recognizable. Please give me another photo. Are you worried about them using the cloud to do this? Says Ram. I think for me, I'm actually okay with data collection to a certain degree. I am like okay with facial collection, and that doesn't mean I don't want like agencies like kind of abusing the fact that I don't care as much, but more like I'm trying to embrace the technology because things will change and there's nothing I could do about this part. Ram says like your pics are being edited on some server somewhere. I mean, all this data is being read by the cloud and they're using it to further the AI, right? There's no doubt about that. Like, obviously they're going to do it, right? Because they need to use the AI to adjust the face. So they're going to have to read that data and they're going to have to retain some of that data. Whether they truly wipe out that data is another question. And that's something we could explore in the future. But for the time being, I don't know if they truly cleanse the learning algorithm from all the data they collect. So that was experiment 1. Now, experiment number 2 is more about is the AI or the best take feature smart enough to identify a picture of a picture? one of the advertised features for the Pixelate's Best Take feature is that you could take an image taken by another source, and if you have that same data set, which is several pictures that are similar enough, it could edit it and merge the faces or take the best one, right? So for example, you could use a Samsung Galaxy, you could use an iPhone, you could use an internet image or something pulled off the internet. And that's what I did. So if I pick the right slide, nope, it would be this one. So I took an image of the lovely Ann Taylor-Joy. I love this woman. She is so talented and she's so smart and she's so cool. And I have a little crush on her, obviously. There's no woman I don't talk about who I don't have a crush on. But anyways, so this is Ann Taylor-Joy. And I took 2 photos, right, off the internet. And this is the first one. And I got a second one that's slightly similar, but a little more different than mine. This one is an off-angle picture, right? So in the first one, you got her kind of straight-faced, looking straight at the camera. And this one is tilted. So how would the AI understand, or how would the AI process this? And to what degree? Because if my face is dead on, well, actually, my face was dead on in the first picture, and the second picture was kind of off. Like, is this going to be okay? Like, this is more dramatic of a change, right? The first one's like a driver's license picture. You talking about this one? If that is the driver's license picture, that is fantastic. I wish I could look that good. The way they do the lighting in the driver's license pictures makes your head look super fat, like super wide. Like, you ever see like a old Half-Life skin that's like unfolded? It's not like wrapped around the character model. That's how your face would look in driver's license photos. Do I have a driver's license? Yes, I do. Oh, yeah. Anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about this experiment. So this experiment was the photo of a photo. So I pulled up both images on my computer. I used my phone to take these pictures, right? So you could see the graining bits, the matted look of the screen. And you can also see I use Bing as a user agent, because I'm nuts. But yeah, so I took these 2 images and I put them together, and this is how it looks. You could see I took a copy of the results. So I processed it on my phone. I uploaded the results back onto the computer, and I took an image of it just so you could see how different it is. It does look AI generated for certain. Like, you could look at the neckline, right, and how it takes going back to the photos. It takes this. Right? And you see the angle is slightly different. Very slight. Actually, this one, they kind of screwed up pretty heavily, right? So the neck doesn't match, the shoulders. It definitely is poorly edited. But one takeaway that we can see is that the photos of photos still works, because the phone was able to identify that this is a person. Now, if we go back to the other one, I think it was this. If the if the image is not distinguishable, it would not bring up this merging effect. In fact, the best take feature only appears on photos where they have found a match. That's like really annoying, right? Because in my testing, I've been trying to find the feature. And usually, if the feature doesn't work on a user interface, what do? They gray out the selection, right? They show you that it's there, but they make it unclickable. In the case of the phone, they actually hide the feature. Like it's not even, you can't even see it. So I didn't understand why I wasn't getting these results. Like why I wasn't getting the tool, you know? So if there is no detection that there is a similar face, the feature just won't show up. And this is like hiding it. Yeah, just hide it without explanation. That's a UX problem, right? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not like a website, right? Like you need to have all these things on the page or on the interface so that people know it's there. It's just not working, right? So that was kind of the result. I have a lot of slides, so hopefully I select the right one. Yeah, so that's the result of experiment number 2. It kind of worked, but there are major glitches. So, but this is based on a real person, and the image is taking a photo of a photo. How about something different? How about using an image of someone who doesn't really exist? Does anyone know this handsome face? This perfectly chiseled jaw. His name is not Chad. His name is definitely not Chad. Yes, it is Nathan Drake from PlayStation's Uncharted. So I was looking for a face. And in my experiment, I was trying to find faces of an AI-generated character or a computer-generated character that has slight alterations in like the angle, right? And I couldn't find any. It was really difficult because when people make art, they don't try to make it look exactly like someone else's picture, right? Every art piece you look up is going to be like different angles, right? And doing different things. So to find one where it's like this versus this is incredibly difficult. So I thought, why not utilize some other way of modifying the photo to get my result? Well, I have Photoshop, and Photoshop also has generative content, and they've had generative content and depth perception tools in Photoshop for quite a while. The generative stuff is actually newer, but the depth perception, the face alterations, the photo restoration features, it's been there for at least a year now. Ron says, have you heard of thesepeopledon'texist.com? I've heard about something like that. Allison asks, who is this Chad? It's Nathan Drake from PlayStation. PlayStation's Uncharted. Which slide were we on? 8, 9, 10? Yeah, 10. I should put a number to these slides. But yeah, anyways, like, so Nathan Drake, right? I wanted to get a different version of him. So I took to Photoshop. And in Photoshop, there are filters. So there's skin smoothing, which is similar to a little bit of what you've seen in my earlier photos, except the skin smoothing that I had was built into the phone. But they have smart portrait. And one of the key features of Photoshop's smart portrait system is you could change a person's happiness. So, Nathan Drake, what does he look like, right? He looks smug. He looks kind of elitist, almost snobby. If he tilted his head up like 1 degree, he would just be a snob, right? But he's okay. He's not really intrigued. I don't know. Like, maybe I think, am I a psychopath? Can I not tell what his expression is? I don't know. That's just like my inner thoughts coming out. He's not full snob, but he's a little bit a little snobby. All right. Anyway, so yeah, I turned his happiness all the way to 40 plus 40. There's no the measure of these units don't really it's only relative. Like, it doesn't, you can't like quantify it outside of numerical value, right? But the more you turn it up, the more their face change. And this is how he looks like. And in fact, I further changed his face to add surprise and anger and to tilt his head direction. Right? So the results aren't too bad. So that's the difference between Photoshop. It's still really ahead of the game. So keep this in mind. I just want to address that this photo on the left is him not expressing anger or surprise. This is just smiling, right? So from this, they inserted teeth. So he's smiling. And they got the lighting pretty close. Like, that's really well done, right? Teeth are a bit crooked. Well, no one's perfect, Rom. No one's perfect. He looks like a football player. He does. So okay, yeah. The left image is just happiness. And the right image is the future edits that I will make to it. I just want to clarify that. This is how he looks after I add angry and surprised, right? So from this, I apply the settings on the right, to adjust happiness to angry and surprised. Is this angry and surprised? I don't know. Because it's the slider includes happy, angry, and surprised. And the angle change of his face. You think it is? Let's one more look at the other one. Right? And notice the angle, the head direction. There's a slight change. And I messed with the lighting to emphasize the face differently, right? So this to this, right? But now you see there is an artifact. Do you see where the artifact is? The artifact is where his neck is. No, well, was his hair fuzzy? Yeah, his hair did get fuzzy. Yeah, his hair did get a lot fuzzier. But this is, but this is after several iterations through the facial editing software on Photoshop. Remember, this is Photoshop, right? We didn't even get to importing it back into Best Take. So hair crispy, hair fuzzy. Yeah, the neck artifact is super easy to spot. In fact, the artifacting with the neck, it was actually off center. It was off center by like quite a bit, right? Like that much. But there is a feature built into the tool on Photoshop that allows you to shift the whole head over, because they knew it was like a problem and they just like allowed users to fix it. So I aligned it better but there's still like a pretty severe discoloration, right? So after merging both initial results of Nathan Drake with crispy hair and happy, angry, surprise Drake, this is the result. It still works. Now you can't exactly see clearly how the face looks, but Best Take does recognize both people and can modify it. And I did a photo and a photo. So ultimately, it does work. He still looks like he has his head chopped off. His hair is still fuzzy. He looks more and more distorted. It's very similar to you ever see that experiment on like YouTube or something where this person, they put their video through re-encoding. They re-encode it like 20 times and 40 times, and each time the image loses a little bit of data, right? Because the conversion process on any piece of media, like every time you copy it again or edit it again, it loses its clarity. It's, for those who are older, it's like the Xerox machine, right? Like you need to use the original. If you put the copier in the copier in the copier, like, well, not the copier, put the copy in the copy in the copy, it just ends up becoming like a blur by the end of it, right? So we lose fidelity in it, and that's what happened to the image. Xerox, now she's reading from the Necronomicon. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the words turn into hieroglyphics of sorts. So Best Take, it does work. And I did one tiny little experiment left. There was one more thing to address, right? So we did Best Take with my images, and see if I could get this right. This is the recap, right? I took the first two faces to make the third. We took the photo of a photo, and this is the result of that. We have some neck alignment and artifacting. And finally, we took Nathan Drake to see if he was still recognizable as a human. And lastly, the final experiment. I tried to see if my son, Chonkers, come here, would be recognized by Google's Best Take. And these are the results. No, he is not recognized as a person in the photo. And I am very sad about that. I am very, very sad. It did identify me in the photo, however, but I tried several like angles, and I tried to put him exclusively. They just wouldn't recognize his lovely chunky face. So that is Chonkers. Chonkers, say something. Oh, he's shy. Yeah, Chonkers is apparently not a real person. He's too chonky to be recognized, is he? He's so chonky. But yeah, so that's my experiment with Google's new Best Take feature. I will play around with other features, and I will put them on Instagram. I don't think I'll be talking about like the other Google features on stream. But yeah, like, so at first glance, all this stuff seems to work. It seems to work pretty well for the amount of effort you put in, right? Because it's really take a bunch of photos, 10 seconds of photos, and then click edit, select Best Take, choose the new face, and boom, it's photoshopped and it's relatively like airbrushed in well. It will be deceptive to some. But if you look closely at selfies or any zoomed in picture, you will find there will be artifacts or too much blur. Google said no person could possibly look so chonky. Wow, no person could possibly look so cute. That is what I think. You think it's his eyes? So do you think I should experiment by putting like taking my eyes and putting them here? Like, you know, take a photo, cut out the eyes and put them here. But then they can't identify the mouth. So I might as well take my face off and put it on his face. Z says, it's not something I would bother to do myself, but I could see how this will eliminate Photoshop jobs in time. Yeah. Like, you know, if you're not going for perfection, right? If you're trying to get wedding photos and like perfect the wedding photos, go right ahead, but not on just the phone. You need a talented, skillful Photoshopper to look at the images, adjust for lighting, and merge the faces like manually. And when I say manually, it means using the pen tool and, you know, cutting and pasting and altering and multiple layers of stuff, right? Ron says, or a guy who knows a guy who's good at Photoshop. It's true too. But yeah, like, but for your everyday, like, picnic photos or hang out with family or, like, you know, you want to take a selfie with mom, but mom's like, oh, don't take a picture of me. I don't look good. Then you could show off this feature and she'll be like, oh, that's great, right? So low effort, decent return. Unlike our next topic, which is also low effort and moderate return. The next thing we're talking about is 23andMe. In fact, 23andMe leaks genetic data again. But if you don't know what 23andMe is, it's a website. And this website provides a service to users so that they can find more information about their lineage, about their ancestry. It's not ancestry.com. It's different. And the service also has like a different package that includes health services. So how does this even work? Well, you spend money to pay for the service and they send you a kit. And this kit takes a sample of your blood, right? You voluntarily give them your blood. And I know we live in a day and age where people are like super scared of that, but there are reasons to look into your ancestry. For example, people who may have been adopted, right? Where they don't know their biological parents. And this is a good service. Because if this could help you draw clues or come closer to finding your parents or finding more information about where you came from or siblings or anything like that, it's actually very valuable. So, but the vast majority of people are just curious about where they came from. I was curious once. I know my family. And I could not believe I was born into this family. So I was curious to see there's gotta be some other way. These can't be my people. Now, my relationship with my family is complicated, and so is everyone else's. But that is kind of why you look into this, or you would be interested in looking into this. So Ron says, I have 3% of Irish blood. That explains my alcoholism. Does it? Does it really? And Rom also says, also 2% Scandinavian. So I'm basically a Viking. For other people, like, for example, Z, who said in chat, my parents had a genealogy, gene, had a gene book that traced things back like 40 generations. Now, that is an incredible amount of work, discipline, and not losing shit randomly, right? For 40 generations, genealogy. Oh, well, thank you for typing that out. So these so people who have families that actually document, people and create a family tree and create a link, like, these are very rare. Very, very difficult to maintain. So, but for those who are more curious, so 23andMe provides a service, provides information on where in the world your DNA comes from. It reports on your ancestry's background, and based upon that background, they even curate things like food recipes from where you came from, right? So let's say you are a certain type of Asian, right? There's like billion types of Asians, okay? And maybe your people like lived mostly outside of big cities, and you mostly lived in an area where there's more like tropical environments, right? If the service identifies that your DNA matches someone of that tribe or that culture or that type of Asian, whatever, they could also pull up some of the historical background behind them, like food and traditions, and share that information with you. So in addition to linking your DNA to someone else, they also give you a little history lesson. And they also show you popular travel destinations. I'm pretty sure they have some kind of partnership. Let's see. Z says, yeah, kind of crazy. They had more immediate family records with photos and such, but the rest relies more on stories and old records they had to hunt down. And that's the other thing, right? Like when you're keeping a family tree, a book that documents your bloodline, like sometimes you lose track of data and you have to like do the work to continue to update the family tree with like the most accurate data. Like not many people have time for that or interest, right? So that's really cool. Ron says this can be exploited so many ways. And he's talking about 23andMe and taking a sample of your DNA and trying to find DNA matches. But the lure of this whole process is not only does it give you an idea of where your DNA comes from, but it also helps you connect with people from your family, because built into this service there is a service called the DNA relatives tool, right? So the relatives tool is a social network built into 23andMe. So people who pay for this service, they will have their DNA results not publicly posted, but they will matchmake users who opt into this DNA relatives tool service, and they will link you to people who have matching DNA, essentially helping you connect with other people. And you probably have your own social profiles and stuff, but it's not for dating per se, because you're matching with family, unless you're from Alabama, but that's another story. It's like, it's not a dating app, but it's a family app, right? So, keep your mind out of the hub, and more about more about connecting with family, right? So it will link you people who may be close family members or distant family members or cousins or stuff like that. But that's only if the other party chooses to opt in, right? So you got to think about what's the likelihood that these people opt in, right? First, they got to know about 23andMe. They got to know about the service. Then they got to decide to get this service. Then they got to decide to opt in to this tool. And then if all those things align and the DNA matches, then you will be connected to these individuals. But for people who are looking for their biological parents or like additional family members, long lost siblings, it's actually, it's a shot. It's better than no shot, right? Oh, God. Z says, so you're saying I can get some cool recipes in a graveyard? Not quite. Not quite. So, all right. And then one more thing. They also tell you common traits that are common to your genetic makeup, right? So, you ever go drinking with an Asian person? You give them like tiny bits of alcohol and they immediately turn like super red. That's because many Asians are allergic to alcohol. They don't get allergic to a point where like they die, but they may get red and they may have like an itchy throat or something, but it's not like, it's not super lethal, but that's just genetically how a lot of Asians react. Now, it's not all Asian people, right? Because as generations go on, the genetics, like alter a little bit, right? But for the most part, that's something you can expect. So these common traits can also be identified based upon what they find in your DNA. So, for example, the alcohol. Another thing they could find is cilantro taste aversion, which is like a big promise, right? And this is where I feel a little skeptical. So you're saying that there are a group of people that do not like cilantro, and it's based upon their genetics? I don't know how accurate this is. Is this reaching? What are my origins? I'm Cantonese. My parents are from Hong Kong. So, okay, cilantro taste aversion, right? That's one thing, right? So how about the unibrow? All right, now unibrow seems a little more genetically linked, right? Sometimes people are blessed with two eyebrows. Others, some are just one eyebrow, right? So don't take it the wrong way if you have one eyebrow. It's not your fault. It's your parents' fault. Always blame your parents. But that's the unibrow, right? So that is a genetic trait that can be linked to your lineage. But here's the one that really gets me. And it's called mosquito bite frequency. So apparently, according to 23andMe, depending on your genetics, you are more likely or less likely to get bit by mosquitoes. I don't know how accurate that is, right? People always say, oh, mosquitoes bite you because your skin is so sweet. That's another way to say that, oh, you don't fucking take a bath. Like, like, okay, that's not what they mean. But it does sound like they're really reaching, right? Don't get me wrong. This service is not like thousands of dollars, right, to analyze your genetic data. But if that is something you can do to find your family, then go for it. But I wouldn't start looking too deeply into these common traits, right? So the base plan for 23andMe is going to cost you $119, right? And this is for the ancestry testing, right? Once again, you order it online, you get the package, you take a sample of your blood, you send it to their lab, they compare it, they break it down, they compare it to other people who have submitted, they draw conclusions, and then they give you numerous reports talking about your ancestry, your potential family that is also part of the program, and your common traits. They have add-on plans that talk about health risks and carrier status and even how you react to certain medications. But that is like a food and allergy like specialist, right? You could do that. But hey, like if this is an add-on that you can do, then it might actually be cheaper than going to a specialist. I've gone to a specialist for allergies. They stuck me with a whole bunch of things. They stuck me with like 20 things here. And 2 of them popped up. It was like I'm allergic to pollen and dust, which is basically year round. So I'm always sneezy. Yeah, so... And they also have like an annual subscription. I didn't really look into annual subscription for 23andMe, but like there are people who are interested. Hold on. Z says, I think it is true. Mosquitoes are going to have some sort of selection process. Whoever has more of the things they want, like, it makes sense. Possibly. I mean, I would think if they had a choice, they would select. But like, if you're sitting at a barbecue, right, and there's a whole bunch of people there, and there are no other factors, like, the same exposure to the sun, no smoke. I need to drink some water. Sorry. Like there's no smoke on anyone. Like if those conditions are tested, then yeah, maybe we could find out if there is a preference. I don't know. I would actually love to see a test in that, right? Like put 3 people in a room, release like I would love to see a test of this. Release like 10, like 1 mosquito into the room and see who gets bit. Put the mosquito in the center of the room, everyone equidistant, equal lighting, blah, 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 equal diet, and see if there's any difference in which person the mosquito bites, right? That'd be great. And I would love to see the test, it's like, oh, would you get, how come like you come home? How come you have like 60 mosquito bites? I'm part of like a testing group for mosquitoes, like food preferences, flavor profiles. I apparently am their flavor profile. Would I participate? Yeah, I would, because I would think it's hilarious. But the people who get tested on, they're not allowed to move, right? You can't like fidget, right, to get them off you, right? You got to be like strapped down and like actually bitten. Anyways, yeah. No, I'd participate. I think it'd be fun. Z says, how are they going to know who is less likely to swat them and that they're local and aesthetic for their needle nose to work? I don't know. That's why we need to test this. We should start an experiment. If you want to support this experiment, you could share this video. Get me some investors, get me some scientists, and get me a lab, and I'll participate. I'm super down. All right, so why are we talking about 23andMe? You have the full breadth of what this service is and how to gain access to dating your relatives, right? Because that's what the connection tool is for. Well, earlier this month, October 6th, this service got hacked and it leaked 1 million lines of data. Apparently, 1 million lines. Lines in quotations. I don't know what lines means. I typically know what lines means. I don't do those lines, but the lines I think of as different. But the lines that we're talking about is perhaps coding or input fields, like the name input field, the phone number input field. And the hacker, Ron says, I'm already in a lab. Yeah, I am. And the hacker plans to sell this data for $1 to $10 per account, right? So if they have 1 million lines of data, right, how much data is in a profile? The data includes names, profile pictures, genetic ancestry results, date of birth, geographical location. In this case, the hack, I don't know if it was targeted or this was the data that just so happened to be collected, but it affected the Ashkenazi Jewish people. It's the Jewish people that speak Yiddish. I don't know much about them, but that is basically all I know. So yeah, these people unfortunately were hacked, right? And remember, this tool is useful for connecting with long lost family, right? And lineage. So how did this happen, right? How did this 1 million lines of data get out? Well, according to the managing editor at 23andMe, he said, the preliminary results of this investigation suggest that the login credentials used in these access attempts may have been gathered by a threat actor from data leaked during incidents involving other online platforms where users have recycled login credentials. And notice the typo with the uncapitalized T. I'm a perfectionist. That bothers me so. It's in my genetic makeup. Yeah, so they're basically saying because you share your passwords with other unscrupulous websites, right? Your Pornhub account, you shares the same password as your 23andMe. Like, don't do it. Make unique passwords for each website. That's what they're blaming it on. So they're saying it wasn't us. It's you guys because you guys share the same password. And then he went on to say there was no indication of any security incident within our systems, right? So they go in a blog post. And they continue to say that, oh, here's how you could improve your password security, strengthening it, updating it, and just giving you general security tips, right? Further emphasizing it's a you problem, not a me problem, right? So that's what they did. But they also disabled the DNA relatives tool. Remember in the service plan that they offer? one of those aspects was to provide users a way to connect to their ancestors. Well, no, not their ancestors. It's not like a Ouija board, okay? Sorry, if they said a way for you to connect with your ancestors, then do not subscribe to that. That is definitely a shill, all right? But a sham, a scam, a shill is another thing. But that too, all right? So it's the tool that's the social media tool, right? Where they matchmake people. So they said they disabled this tool because it could lead to further compromised profiles, right? Compromised users, right? And of course, the users were notified that it's like, hey, there might be a problem with your profile and your data, but hey, it's hard to own up to such a big fault, right? Especially when you're working with data that's beyond your typical name and address. You're talking about genetic data. And how many people could utilize that genetic data? I don't know. But there's some mad scientists out there who has a super hard on for all that leaked genetic data. No longer does he have to rob a sperm bank. He could just download it now. So, yeah. They also said, use multi-factor authentication, right? Authentication, same thing. But yeah, so yeah, they basically said it wasn't us. Well, that was earlier in October. Guess what happened? October 18th, just 4 days ago, they got hacked again. And guess what? It's by the same person. And now the hacker is under the name Golem or a Golem, Golem. I say Golem, right? The hacker who goes by Golem, this time they claim they leaked 4 million genetic profiles belonging to people of Great Britain, along with the wealthiest living people in the US and Western Europe. Basically, everyone else. Asian people didn't get affected, but if they don't tighten up security at 23andMe, we're going to get hacked too. People in Asia, that is. But yeah, so a second hack happened, and this time it involves the DNA relatives feature again, right? So their weak point is this social tool. So somehow the hacker is scraping data through connections. So think of it like in terms of like a social media platform, right? Because that's what it is, except it's focused on family, right? And relatives. So when you have a profile on social media, you have connections, right? And from these connections, you might have certain privileges to access certain pieces of data, like where they live, right? Date of birth. And that's how widespread this hack has become. It has included 4 million genetic profiles, right? So the point of vulnerability, unfortunately, has not been confirmed. But if you are ever interested in utilizing a service like this, just know that yes, this is more. If the service gets hacked, this is more than just your basic data, your general data. It's genetic data. So let's see. Oh boy, I am not going to read that, Z. Z says, if it's wealthy people, I'm fully prepared to sit on my hands and see what happens to them. Well, I mean, wealthy or not doesn't necessarily mean they're evil. So So to have this happen to people is not a good thing. That's my perspective on it. Feel free to feel however you want. But that I just have to rebut with that, you know? Yeah. Obviously, it's generally bad. Yeah, like totally. Like hacking, not really cool. That's all. But genetic hacking, probably not as bad as it could be, right? Because if it's like, if they're like splicing your data, right? If they're trying to make offspring of you and like some other rando, like that's a problem. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It is awful for their business. But I'm glad that this has come up because as more people are interested in reconnecting with like family and relatives and learning more about themselves, more people will just sign up to the service. And, you know, unfortunately, this has to have affected millions of people before, like, I don't know if something's going to be done. But yeah, so okay, let's see what Z says. So here's the plan. We got to figure out how to edit our own DNA faster than they can weaponize it to make ourselves immune. Maybe immortal. You think immortality is something we want? I don't know about you, but immortality is not for me. In fact, something that doesn't end is not for me because the most beautiful things end abruptly. Like this podcast. Thank you guys for checking out episode 15 of Technical with Sharlit Elise. This was a really fun one, and I'm so glad you guys are here. Thanks to all your chatter and all your interest. Today we talked about modifying and morphing faces with Google's Pixel 8's best take technology. Few taps on the phone and you could change someone's face and take their face off. Any opportunity I get to say that, I will take it. I don't care if you could ID how old I am. Fuck that. And the second topic was the hacking of 23andMe. Thank you guys for all your support. We will continue Technical with Sharlit Elise every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to check out our other episodes, you can always check it out on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we're coming to YouTube Music because Google Podcasts is now gone. If you want to support the channel, you can always check out my socials and the links below and the links that I'm going to put in chat. Thank you guys so much. We will be rolling into a gaming stream. But that's all I got for you guys today. I will see you soon. Google Play Music is gone. YouTube Music is live. That's what I use. Yeah, today was a really fun one. So if you want to hear a little bit more about, or you want to see more about some of the features on my phone and the whole technology, I'll be editing some photos. I'll post it to my Instagram, so you can check that out. If you want to talk about tech news, check me out on Threads. That's what I do. I love tech.